Dale, what can you tell us now from what you were able to see out there?
Well, I was trying to go by Gugelmin. I think it was Gugelmin, and when I was already in front of him on the outside, I think he moved over, and my rear wheel went over his front wheel, and so he just made me spun, and I went into the wall.
This racetrack is known for the fierce traffic, and you have to concentrate so hard, but sometimes I guess there's just nothing a driver can do.
Well, you see, you suppose that the driver you are overtaking stays on the same line, and when he moves, it's too late.
We're at least happy you're okay. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you.
Paul?
A lot of work to do up on the track to get all of the debris and cars away. Let's take a look at this accident again. Let's just listen. If you can believe it, despite all that and this kind of damage, we don't have any one of these names seriously injured, if injured at all. But for the second year in a row, Paul Tracy goes out while leading the race. Back at the Slick 50 200 Phoenix, Arizona, still cleaning up from a massive accident. You can see all the equipment on the track right under the Goodyear Bridge there in the fourth turn. Let's look at it again.
Watch this in slow motion. Racing cars are designed to dissipate the energy by breaking into little pieces. Watch this horrible impact. Looks the left front wheel of Villeneuve. He realizes he's in trouble, deep trouble, locks it up. Huge impact. Now watch as these cars break apart. Stop it right there. That is the engine and gearbox and complete back end of Matsushita's car that has just been ripped apart. That is what they're designed to do.
And to show you the danger, too, that's what threw Paul Tracy's car over to the side, is this section, the gearbox and engine of that car. Now, down by that car is Jan Beekes.
Well, they're lifting that car at the moment, Paul, and fuel is pouring out from it. The methanol fuel is being diluted with water from the safety personnel. What they're trying to do now is to lift the back of the car so that fuel cell will stop leaking. But what they were doing while it was leaking was diluting it with water. That's what keeps it from bursting into flames. Let's check in with Gary.
And here you see Villeneuve's car as officials bring it back now where they will take the excess fuel out of the tank. But look at this nose section. This is carbon fiber. Remember, they made a rule change a year or so ago to give the driver more protection up around the foot box. Thank goodness they made that rule change, because that had to be a huge factor in this violent crash for the young Canadian driver. It just ripped the nose literally off of there. That takes tremendous force to rip that away like that. It's very, very fortunate that he was not seriously injured.
That's Villeneuve's car, and we're not talking just fiberglass there. All kinds of deformable structure, carbon fiber. And the Renards, they seem to have the driver a little further back than even the rule requires.
That's right, and you can clearly see here the complete pedal assembly is gone from that car, which means Villeneuve probably at the point of impact lifted his feet as far back from the point of impact as possible. But that is a huge crash and a superb test of the Reynard chassis.
And look at the bent suspension members, and think of the, you know, it looks like a small piece, but it takes incredible energy to do that kind of thing. Just awesome.
Carbon fiber is lighter and stronger than steel. Lighter and stronger than steel. They build a survival cell for the driver to sit inside. You can smash it and break it, but as long as it doesn't get into the driver, you've done your job. Happily, we saw Villeneuve walk away.
Pennzoil team gets Dale Fabi's car back out of the way. Still fuel, methanol fuel, pouring out of that car. That is Hero's car. And by the way, this works with methanol. It doesn't work with gasoline. You can dilute with water with methanol and keep it from being flammable. We'll be back with more. We're still under yellow. Back at Phoenix, Arizona, still under yellow. They are continuing to circulate with 73 laps complete. Those are the skid marks from not one but several cars up into the wall. And obviously they have the cars gone. Well, they still have Dominic Dobson's on the track, but a lot of cleanup to do. They have to make sure not only is just the debris off the surface, but that there's no oil on the surface, no fuel on the surface, and it's ready to accommodate racing. Teo Fabi on the cart, IndyCar safety team emergency cart, as he's probably not heading for the hospital. He's probably heading back from the hospital, and they still are trying to pick up that engine gearbox assembly from Hero's car. So this is going to be a rather lengthy cleanup here. Let's take a look, if we can, at the full field lineup as they run. Now, let's remember, too, that we're talking about cars that are circulating under the yellow. So these interval times you're looking at, they don't count for anything. That's because they're running behind the pace car. Johnny Rutherford at the wheel right now. But look at what happened here. Fittipaldi and Unser Jr. are at the front of the order, so the Penske team still running 1-2 after some tactical maneuvering during these pit stops. And the rest of the order we run down, and you can see that only the top 5 cars are on the lead lap. But some key players are gone, most notably Paul Tracy, and also, of course, Villeneuve, who had such a spectacular start here today. And we do have to understand why he moved to the outside after the yellows came on. He made that same move in the same corner yesterday while chasing Nigel Mansell in the final practice, and it trapped him against the wall. Look at that giant chunk. What are we talking there, Derek? Maybe 1,000 pounds, a bit more?
The gearboxes, the rear suspension, hubs, and the engine, you probably are. I mean, that's most of the weight of the car right there.
And that's what slammed into the side of Paul Tracy's car. He's a very lucky young man.
I am so surprised that all these drivers walked away. Now we can go back and have a look at what started this whole incident. Teo Fabi is in the yellow car on the outside as they come into turn 3. Let the video run a little bit here. He's on the outside, remember. Well,
good solid touch there.
Almost looked as if Matsushita moved offline a little bit and just hooked Fabi's wheel as he went by.
But look at that. Did a tire let go there? There's tire debris all over that. See, watch, you'll see a pop right at the back of the car as they see that. Look at that. Look at the left rear on Teo's car.
Okay,
what's happening
go
there?
Again. Now, is that the contact from Matsushita's car that blows that left rear tire? See it again. I almost suggest that is contact between Matsushita's car and Teo Fabi, and that started the whole thing. Now remember, this is 190 miles an hour. They approach turn 3. They do get out of the power a little bit, but they're still doing in excess of 150 miles an hour here as they lose control. There's Tracy. He's on the brakes. See the blue smoke? But he already knows he is in the lap of the gods here and gets swallowed up by that incident.
Certainly the most major incident we've seen, perhaps. Well, if you don't count Johnny Rutherford's accident here, that's certainly the greatest multiple car accident in the 15 years of IndyCars here at Phoenix. Remember, the first IndyCar race occurred here at Phoenix 15 years ago. We are at Phoenix International Raceway, the mile in the desert. You're looking down on a track that's running very slow right now in the Slick 5200. That's because of an accident involving Teo Fabi, Dominic Dobson, Hiro Matsushita, Paul Tracy, the leader of the race at the time, and Jacques Villeneuve, who started second on the starting grid. So the whole front row goes out in a single accident here. Now, early on, it was Paul Tracy, the leader, and then Nigel Mansell came in, took over the leader, and Emerson Fittipaldi has taken over the lead of the race under the yellow. So let's go down trackside again. Jan Vikas.
Well, we're standing by with Nigel Bennett, the designer of the Penske chassis. We just saw a huge crash, and it appears as though all the drivers are okay. How have the rules that have been changed and the way you guys have been designing these cars played in this type of accident?
Well, I think it's a bit premature to claim that the rules have stopped people being hurt, because I don't know what sort of accident it was. You know, there's obviously a lot of luck involved. I gather Tracy, a gearbox bounced off his helmet. I mean, it's just a matter of luck whether you get hurt badly or not. The cars are very strong. There's very good foot protection, body protection, but in a 180-mile-an-hour accident, you've got to be fairly lucky not to get hurt.
Well, what I can tell you is that there was a car that went and T-boned another stationary car, took a huge impact in the footbox area, and as you said, that played a huge part. Now, a few years ago, that may not have been possible until the drivers were moved back.
Well, certainly, you know, the construction of the cars has improved enormously over the years in all forms of serious motor racing, and Indy cars is one of them.
Now, there was also a bit of controversy in the past about carbon fiber versus aluminum and then carbon fiber. All these cars now are made completely from carbon fiber, and it does now seem as though that's the best answer.
Well, there are various composites used, not all carbon fiber, but I think a composite chassis is definitely the way to go. I don't think there's been any doubt about that for a number of years.
Thank you, Nigel. Gary?
Well, here's Jacques Villeneuve, who's just come out of the medical center. Jacques, first of all, how are you feeling after this horrific accident?
Well, a bit stretched, but feeling okay.
Can you tell us what happened? And the question appears to be, the yellow had been out, and you moved up high on the racetrack and then became involved.
Well, when the yellow came up, they came on the radio, and I was already a little high, and I started braking because there was Leyendijk overtaking someone, and there wasn't much room on the inside, and I was braking a little bit on the outside, and then I saw the two cars that were stopped, and I couldn't avoid them.
It has to be an emotional roller coaster to have gone from celebrating your 23rd birthday yesterday, qualifying in the front row, then the late incident, an untested car, and yet you were running so strong. This is an awful lot for a young man to endure in 24 hours.
Yeah, the player's Reynard was going fantastically during the race, and you know, it felt really safe, and I could move up and low in the traffic, and wasn't really, you know, trying to go like crazy, but you know, things like that happen on a racetrack.
Well, I tell you, a lot of people say this young man has ice water in his veins. I think maybe I believe it. We're happy you're all right.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Paul?
Such a sad smile, though. A young man at 23 who had the racing world by the tail and then involved in that accident. Still much to expect out of him.
It's hard to believe that in such an emotional event as this, racing drivers are so cool to come up with the corporate mention of the player's Reynard is the most important thing that was on his mind. But that is how cool and emotionless some of these drivers can be, and indeed have to be.
You know, one thing I think ought to be mentioned, we saw very close the Reynard and its strength, but you had all three marks involved in this accident. Hero's was a Lola, cut right in half, and yet the driver climbs out and walks away, and that's speaking to the design shear between the engine and the driver's compartment. And you have a Penske that not only got very hard into the wall, but then subsequently was hit by the engine and gearbox section from Hero's car. And also you're talking, as just mentioned, the helmet. Nigel Bennett said the engine gearbox combination actually hit his helmet. So when they work on this, they work together. They may be competitors out on the racetrack, but they come right together when it comes to designing these cars so that they will survive these incredible impacts. We're still under yellow in the Slick 5200. The Indy cars at Phoenix, Arizona in the Slick 5200 are being brought to you by PPG, world leaders in automotive finishes, and by Toyota Motorsports, where technology on a fast track is built into every Toyota. Well, we are still under the yellow flag here, the Indy cars, the second round of the PPG IndyCar World Series. And our second yellow of the day, it's extended now 22 laps as a result of an accident involving Teo Fabi, Dominic Dobson, Paul Tracy, Jacques Villeneuve, and Hiro Matsushita. Gary Gerald is with Dr. Terry Trammell, one of the medical directors of the IndyCar safety team.
Indeed, Paul. Dr. Trammell has just come out. He's attended to all of the different drivers. I know the concern right now is about Hiro. What can you tell us, Terry?
He's really fine. He has an injury to his left shoulder, just what we call a grade 1 AC separation. He's still in there because we've got an ice compression pump running on it just to help control pain and swelling. It's a relatively minor injury. It won't keep him out at all.
And I know it was a bit traumatic for you and the safety crew because you were already rolling up there to attend to the initial incident when there was this horrendous impact.
Yeah, we were already on the track when Hiro got hit broadside, and it just showered the truck with our open windows with metal parts and plastic and so on and so forth. I guess it hit him hard enough that he knocked the transmission all the way across the track, and it hit Paul Tracy's car while Paul was trying to get out. I think that's probably, he has a little laceration on his elbow, and that's probably what did it, not the first crash. So.
Well, it's somewhat amazing then that everybody comes away with this relatively unscathed.
Yeah, I'm really thankful.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Paul?
You know, and we're talking about there's half of the car, not the whole car, half of the car. What do you think the impact